All right. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak today. As I said, when I first hopped on the call, my name is Kirsten Hill. I am the program manager for the Smithsonian Bird Friendly certification. So that means I wear a lot of hats, but largely what I do is work with the latter half of our supply chain. So our community of coffee roasters, retailers, and importers to bring bird friendly certified products to market, and then to conduct outreach and kind of grow our certification, get us out in front of as many folks as we can to tell the bird friendly story, kind of just like I'm doing here today with you all, and to hopefully encourage folks to drink more bird friendly coffee. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today. Physically, I'm located on the west coast of Canada. I live just outside of Vancouver, BC, and am happy to be chatting with you all today. So with that, I can just sort of dive right into our talk here. When I am in this presentation mode, I'll let you know I can't really see everybody. So if you have a question, please either feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt me, or I know we'll have plenty of time for questions sort of at the end here. So just to get started, yeah, I thought we would start off by talking a little bit about the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. So as I mentioned, we are the Smithsonian's Bird Friendly certification, and we were created by the Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center. And to kind of zoom all the way out, the Smithsonian, we are part of the Smithsonian Institution, which is the world's largest museum and research complex, headquartered largely in Washington, D.C., with 19 museums and the National Zoo, but with research projects occurring around the world. So our center, the Migratory Bird Center, is pretty new, all things considered. Was founded just over 30 years ago in 1991, with the mission to understand, preserve, and champion the grand phenomenon of bird migration. So with that very specific focus on migratory birds in particular, and migratory birds of the Americas largely, so those ones that are in our flyway here in North America. And we are home to the Bird Friendly Coffee certification program as well, which we will get into in just a moment. But sometimes folks ask us to start off by saying, kind of why birds, why are birds sort of your primary focus? And we really like this quote from Thomas Lovejoy, who is a former National Zoo board member and tropical conservation biologist, saying, if you take care of birds, you take care of most of the big environmental problems in the world. So I don't have to tell you all, birds are fantastic indicator species. So if we're taking good care of them, if there's healthy bird populations, that's usually the sign of a fairly healthy ecosystem. And conversely, if birds aren't doing well, that means that there's likely a problem that needs addressing, not just for the birds themselves, but for all of us, for everyone who depends upon that ecosystem. And unfortunately, as I'm sure many of you have heard, in 2019, there was a study that was released that talked about the release of nearly 3 billion birds over about a 50-year period. So since the 1970s, and this kind of verified, unfortunately, what a lot of our ornithologists had been observing for years. So put in other terms, about 1 in 4 birds is gone. So these are often common birds that we consider backyard birds that we would often see, and unfortunately many of them are migratory as well. So we saw about a 28% population loss in migratory bird species during this time, and a really significant number, so 2.5 billion out of that 2.9 billion were migratory species that were lost. And one of the biggest reasons, of course, there's a lot of reasons why, why we're seeing this decline in birds, but across the board, one of the most significant drivers of this loss is habitat destruction. And with migratory birds, that becomes really tricky because they live in so many different regions and they depend upon so many different types of habitats in order to have that chance at survival. So here we're kind of looking at a map of, kind of these birds of two different worlds. We really like this animation that shows this population density over time as that migration period occurs, heading down south for those winter months where they'll overwinter in those warmer climates in the tropical areas closer to the equator, and then as the cool weather subsides, they head back north. Some of them going all the way up to Alaska, north of us here in Minnesota for a lot of folks, and for me in BC, heading all the way up there. So this has been kind of the Smithsonian Smithsonian Migratory Bird Center's area of focus and is ultimately kind of our origin story for the Bird Friendly program, is trying to figure out how can we protect habitat, how can we do what's right for birds in so many of these different areas. So we'll hop back in time a little bit, go back to the 80s and early 90s, really even before the Migratory Bird Center was founded. So pictured there in the bottom left corner of the screen is Dr. Russ Greenberg, who was the founding director of the Migratory Bird Center. And even before the formal creation of SMBC, he and other ornithologists were observing migratory bird overwintering grounds, so those areas in the neotropics, and they were noting what types of species were present in certain areas and what types of habitats they were using. So that's kind of what some of those journal notes are. And one of the things that Greenberg discovered was that coffee farms that provided high quality shade over the coffee crop were also providing high value habitat for migratory birds. So that was kind of one of his findings even before the Migratory Bird Center was established. And when you think about it, it's not really terribly surprising. So here's kind of a global map of where coffee and biodiversity intersect. So your biodiversity hotspots are going to be those orange areas. The coffee growing regions are the ones in yellow, and then a little teaser there. The blue is your cocoa growing regions as well. So you can see there's a high concentration of where coffee is grown and where biodiversity occurs and how that overlaps. And coffee is a massive, massive crop. So it's cultivated on more than 27 million acres of land globally, and is the second most traded commodity worldwide. We drink a lot of coffee as the human species. And a lot of this coffee is produced by smaller scale farmers who can ultimately add up to about 120 million people around the world who rely either directly or indirectly on coffee production as part of their economic survival. So has a very big impact as well. A little quick history lesson on coffee. So coffee used to be entirely grown in the shade, so underneath and the understory of the forest. But in the 1970s, farmers started removing trees and transitioning to what we now think of as a sun-grown monoculture, and that resulted in higher yields for them. So they were able to get more coffee beans per hectare of land, which is of course a great incentive for folks when demand is high and they've got families and folks to feed at home. And now, unfortunately, what that has resulted in is about 3/4 of the world's coffee is farmed using practices that leave very little space for birds, or worse, are actively destroying forest habitat. And that's a big problem, but not just for birds, for biodiversity overall, and for a lot of other reasons we're going to get into in just a moment. So when we think about that comparison between a sun-grown monoculture, shade-grown coffee, agroforestry system, it's pretty easy when you see this sort of side-by-side comparison to see why a shade-grown coffee farm could support more wildlife than the sun-grown alternative. So that monoculture that you're seeing on the left-hand side here, there's really, kind of one sparse tree here. Maybe some of the birds are able to use some of the coffee bushes for, finding insects, things like that are around. But here in this forested habitat, you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot of other birds and a lot of other wildlife. So one of the things that, is pretty straightforward is the number of bird species is going to go up as you protect this forested habitat on the coffee land. And that is effectively why the Bird Friendly program was established, because in order to protect birds, we have to protect this high quality shade and forest on coffee farms, particularly so migratory birds have a space to land after they complete their migration journey for the overwintering cycle. So that leads us to Bird Friendly. So what is Bird Friendly? Who are we? So we're a third-party certification that was created by Smithsonian to protect wildlife habitat on coffee farms. So in the simplest terms, Bird Friendly coffee comes from those farms like the photo on the right that we just saw that provide really good forest-like habitat for birds and biodiversity. We uphold the strictest environmental criteria for coffee currently on the market, making us the gold standard in biodiversity-friendly coffee. We are 100% shade grown, 100% certified organic, and 100% product pure, which means every bean in a bag or a cup of Bird Friendly certified coffee is coming from those farms that provide that high quality forest habitat. So how the scheme works, how the certification itself works. So what we do to kind of move you along the bird-friendly journey is it starts, of course, at the farm with the producers themselves. So if a farm producer is maintaining high quality shade and lots of native trees on their farm and organic certification, they can become eligible to be certified as bird-friendly. So they will contact our bird-friendly program and we'll get them put in touch with one of our licensed inspectors. So we work with a community of third-party inspectors who actually go out and visit the farms. They are the ones who go out and verify things like tree height and biodiversity, within the tree species that are present on the land. Things we'll get into a little bit more in just a moment. And if the farm meets the criteria for bird friendly, then they're issued a 3-year certification, which allows them to trade their coffee as bird friendly certified, and they pay zero cost to Smithsonian in order to have that happen. The only thing they pay for is to the inspectors directly for their time to come out and perform that inspection. Now, once their coffee is certified, they are able to trade it through the bird-friendly supply chain, and they can use that to leverage a higher price for the importers, roasters, and retailers who are the ones who are purchasing the coffee. Now, at those levels for importers, roasters, and retailers, we have licensing agreements in place, which are necessary to use the bird-friendly trademark name and logo, and for us to ensure that the coffee remains pure and is handled according to our Smithsonian standards as it moves through the supply chain. So at the importer level, we have a licensing agreement that folks can enter into for sort of a flat nominal fee in order to be sort of the ones that move the coffee from point of origin to point of roast and sale. And then at the roaster level, we do assess a royalty payment to roasters for the use of the bird-friendly seal on their product. And so they pay to Smithsonian, and that is what funds our program and our research at the Migratory Bird Center. So just a little bit more about the type of criteria, what exactly we look for when we issue bird-friendly certification. So of course, one of the main things is shade canopy. So we want to have a minimum of 40% shade cover. And then we want that canopy height, so the max height of the trees to be at least 12 meters high. Of course, it's great if it's higher than that, but we want to have at least 12-meter high canopy over the coffee crop. We also look for tree diversity. This is a really important one. As foresters, you all know this. We want to have at least 11 species of trees per farm, and we want to make sure that the majority, so at least 60% of that vegetation, should be native to the country of origin in which the coffee is being grown. This provides healthier insect communities for the birds who are insectivores, and just provides a healthier ecosystem in general. We also look at a few other habitat criteria. So we want to see structural diversity, so different canopy layers that are present over the farm. We want to see the presence of stumps, snags, epiphytes, ferns, orchids, bromeliads, and riparian buffers. So these are things that if there's the opportunity for them to exist on the farm, we want to encourage them to be kept and not culled in order to provide that sort of more robust and complete ecosystem. And then, of course, one of the other main criteria for us is we do require organic certification. So right now, we accept a number of different globally recognized organic certifications, including USDA, European Organic, Jazz Organic, Organic, and several others. And then we're just starting to recognize also participatory guarantee systems, which are also helpful for farmers that are very, very remote and farmers where organic certification can be a little bit of a cost prohibitive thing for them to enter into. So we're just getting started with that. Don't have any use cases in the field right now, but hopeful that that'll be happening soon. So that leads us to where we are today. So we've had steady growth of the program since its inception, and today in 2023, we're protecting about 17,000 hectares of land in 11 different countries for bird-friendly bird-friendly coffee, plus one additional one for bird-friendly cocoa, which was launched earlier this year. We're largely concentrated in Latin America, but we also have farms in India and Ethiopia. And we work with a community of over 5,400 producers to bring bird-friendly certified coffee and cocoa to market. And in coffee in particular, we're producing almost 37 million pounds of bird-friendly coffee each year, which is pretty great. So jump to a quick poll for folks, and you can use the chat feature just to enter in your best guesses here, just to see how much of an impact does bird-friendly really have. So you just learned about all the criteria here. About how many migratory birds do you think could benefit from bird-friendly coffee? So happy to see your guesses. I can pull up the chat here, and we can do that. Let's see. Gail would like to have a link to the bird-friendly coffee subscription. Oh, okay. So this is specific to to somebody who mentioned the bird-friendly coffee subscription page there. Okay, so Mark says 75, Katie says 500, Sarah says all of them. Love that answer. Any other guesses folks are thinking? We've got quite the range. 300, all, 100, 200. Excellent. Love these guesses. Thanks, everyone. So when we think about the impact that bird-friendly has, it's actually 1 in 10 bird species globally that utilizes habitat on or near bird-friendly coffee farms. So looking specifically at a study that we did at one of our research sites in Peru, you can kind of see the difference that bird-friendly coffee can actually make. So here on a sun-grown coffee farm, we found that there's about 61 bird species that could be supported just by really kind of having those coffee bushes and maybe like 1 or 2 trees present on the farm. As we move into partial shade, so there's some shade that's present on the land, but not the full bird-friendly standard, that jumps up to 79 bird species. So you're getting, almost 20 additional bird species that are present. But then when you go to the bird-friendly agroforestry system, you're seeing 243 bird species that can be present. So that's about 4 times or over 4 times more birds than the sun-grown monoculture. So this is a pretty significant increase in the number of bird species that can be protected just by preserving this habitat on the land. But it's not just birds who are benefiting from the bird-friendly certified farms. Our farms are better for wildlife, they're more climate resilient, and they can help farmers earn more money. So additional studies have been conducted on bird-friendly farms showing that they provide excellent habitat for amphibians, for small mammals, and for insect communities as well. Bird-friendly farms are also better for the climate and better for farmers who are dealing with climate change. So when you have extreme weather events associated with climate change, like really heavy rains, that soil in your land is less likely to be susceptible to landslides or to getting washed out because of all the native vegetation that's being preserved on the land. So the roots are really shoring up that soil and making sure that that the coffee crop can withstand that a bit more. And then when it comes to extreme heat, the shade provides excellent cover over that and gives the coffee a better chance at survival versus spoilage, which can be really helpful as well in preserving that crop for farmers. I was actually just at one of our farms last week, and the difference was incredibly palpable between whether you were out in the sun or whether you were under the shade in the coffee forest, which is pretty fantastic. The shade cover and all the native trees that are present on land are also really good for soil fertility, really good for moisture. We preserve as much as we can of the forest that's on there, and that does make quite a difference in the overall soil health and sort of what we're seeing in that sense. And then, of course, the trees themselves are capturing carbon and drawing it back down into the soil, making bird-friendly a climate positive choice. And then many of the trees, in addition to this, are also helping farmers to earn more money. So there's a lot of intercropping that can occur where producers may grow mangoes, bananas, plantains, limes, lots of different things that can also be harvested and sold. And that adds a secondary source of income in case something goes sideways with the coffee crop. And then, of course, in return, the birds themselves, they actually offer some really excellent ecosystem services as well. So the birds can help farmers by doing things like helping to pollinate, disperse seeds, control insects, and even control rodents too. and actually in Jamaica, there's a pretty staggering case of these three birds in particular. So the prairie warbler, black-throated blue warbler, and the American redstart, who were really, really fantastic pest control measures for the coffee berry borer, which is a major threat to coffee production. So these are little bugs that live, feed, and breed inside of the coffee cherry, and their presence severely impacts the quality of the coffee beans themselves. But these three birds accounted for quite a significant amount of predation on the coffee berry borer on a study that was done in Jamaica, and that helped boost farmer income quite a bit. And these are species that are only present if the shade trees are present themselves. So with that, we'll go to second poll for the day. So again, you can use the chat feature if you would like, and we'll pull that up. So is shade-grown coffee the same as bird-friendly coffee? So hopefully you've seen the value of maintaining sort of forest-like habitat on coffee farms, but one of the most frequently asked questions we get is, isn't it enough just to drink shade-grown coffee? So let's see what folks are saying here. Is shade-grown the same as bird-friendly? So I'm seeing a couple of no's in there. Mark says no standard for shade-grown. We've got another no in here. All right, some good responses from folks. Another note, pretty strong consensus that that no is the correct answer here. And you guys are not wrong. You have been paying attention. So my favorite answer to that question is somebody put not always, which is how I like to kind of couch it. So here's a little chart that we like to use that helps kind of describe some of the different certifications that you might see. And while all bird-friendly coffee is shade-grown, not all shade-grown coffee is bird-friendly. So I like kind of what Mark said there. There's no standard for shade-grown, and that's absolutely correct. Shade-grown is just kind of a generic term that anyone can use. It's not regulated. There's no set definition for it. And as a result, it's subject to the interpretation of the person that's choosing to use it for better or for worse. So in some instances, yes, it may mean bird-friendly. In many other instances, it certainly may not. It may just mean that they've thrown, a couple trees, on their land, and they're calling that shade-grown. Or maybe it's just one species of tree that's providing some shade, but not high-quality shade, or it's not a native tree and that's not doing good things for birds and biodiversity. So shade grown can mean a lot of different things, but yeah, really to set itself apart, kind of shows the difference between bird friendly and some of the other standards that you're seeing on here. So we strictly regulate the shade cover. We don't allow for any synthetic pesticides or fertilizers, and can guarantee that all farms are providing habitat for diverse community of birds and other wildlife, even when you compare to some of the other common certifications. So rainforest, fair trade, organic, of course, all doing great things in their own right, but do things that are quite a bit different from how the bird-friendly standard goes. So, rainforest unfortunately does allow for limited pesticides, and some farms are doing good things, but it's not quite to the standard of bird-friendly. Fair trade, of course, operates in quite a different sphere, looking largely at prices paid to farmers. So they don't look at shade. They don't, it's optional to have, pesticide use in place. Nothing really that's there, specifically for birds and biodiversity. And then organic, of course, there's benefits to the lack of chemicals that are used and applied on the farms, but no habitat requirements that are in place when it comes to things like shade and tree species present. But of course, whenever you get bird friendly, you're also getting organic. Remember that as a prerequisite to bird friendly. So a little bit about kind of where we are at right now. So despite all of the benefits that we sort of just talked about to biodiversity, to farmers, to the climate, bird-friendly certification is still a relatively niche, but I will say growing certification in the market here. So right now, our supply of bird-friendly certified coffee that's being produced at the farm level currently outweighs the demand. So what roasters and importers are requesting, to be marketed and sold as bird friendly. So this oversupply is, of course, a risk to the habitat that it currently protects. If farmers aren't seeing that demand, if they're not finding buyers, if they don't, see a price premium for what it is that they are, they're producing, they may leave the program, or as we're seeing in some cases, they may get out of coffee altogether and convert their land to pasture or something like that that's much easier to manage and less resource intensive than coffee. So in the sense of sort of what they're having to do to make a living. So what we're working to do is to overcome that gap, to overcome low consumer awareness and kind of confusion about what bird friendly is, and then to also work with our community to increase product availability and get the word out about bird friendly. So and grow our community of folks that are involved in the program. And with that, we've been growing, with leaps and bounds over these last couple of years. In really, I think we've almost tripled now the number of roasters who are involved in our program, and have been doing a lot of outreach to a bunch of different communities to really get the word out on bird friendly. And we just learned yesterday that those results are starting to make their way to producers themselves, which was music to my ears. That one of my colleagues was down in the field in Peru and was saying, hey, the producers said that more people are asking for bird friendly, and they're out there, demanding it and wanting to pay more for it, which is what we want to hear. So we want more of that to be happening as much as possible. And so that's where you all come in. We would love it if you would help us to spread the word on bird friendly. Of course, if you're not already a bird friendly coffee drinker yourself, you can look for bird friendly certified coffee in natural food stores or online at drinkbirdfriendly.com. I know there are a lot of folks in Minnesota. I don't know if we have any Minnesota based roasters, but I do know there are ways to get bird friendly coffee in Minnesota. So if you can't find your favorite, one in your natural food store, of course, you can ask for it, from your local businesses, the places where you buy your coffee now, request bird friendly coffee from those folks, and also just help us spread the word about bird friendly with the folks in your circles. Let them know that this is a really easy behavior that they can take, that is something that is really, really impactful for birds' biodiversity, for the climate, and all of those good things. So if you're a person who cares and is really interested in, kind of backing up your personal actions that make sure that they align with your beliefs, then going to switch to bird friendly is a great way to do that. And just to end with a little anecdote that I really like to kind of think of and talk about. So this time of year, if you can picture yourself, or maybe you've got a window you're looking out of, right now, or, by your desk, things like that. And, got a bird feeder, or you're just kind of looking out in your area there, and you see, a migratory bird kind of lands and perch itself right, whether it's on your feeder or on a branch, think of an oriole or a wood thrush, a warbler. That individual bird is coming from the coffee farms that we've been talking about here today. So if you're sipping your coffee, you're looking out, you see a bird, the coffee that's in your cup could be making the difference as to whether or not that bird has a place to go when the weather gets chilly in just a few more months. So just think about that personal connection. It's not species that are miles and miles away. These are animals that we are seeing every single day, that we're appreciating in our backyards and in our parks. They can benefit, those individuals can benefit after they complete that incredible journey south, from the coffee that you're choosing in your cup each day. So we'll close there. Thank you all so much for your time and your interest in what it is that we are doing here. That's my contact information and our website. So please do feel free to reach out if you have any thoughts, ideas, or questions. And we can also pause there and end with some discussion. So thanks, folks.